Vanessa had been at Oak Creek Women's Maximum Security Hospital for 6 years. She was found guilty of drowning her children in a bath. But she'd always maintained her innocence. She'd only just avoided being sentenced to death by lethal injection on grounds of insanity, and her sentence was changed to life in an asylum. During her time there, she'd started to become friendly with one of the guards, Stephen Fisher, who had always had a soft spot for her. Ever since the first day they'd met, he'd always thought that she was innocent, and that she didn't belong in one of the most notorious asylums in the country. So he made sure that he looked after her as much as he could. However, one morning, Stephen was busy attending to another issue when Vanessa was ambushed and attacked by someone while she was in the showers. She was so badly hurt that she had to be sent to the infirmary. Hearing this, Stephen rushed over to her to make sure she was okay. Vanessa tried to maintain she was fine, but Stephen didn't want to see anything bad happen to her. Stephen knew her well enough to know that she wasn't alright. So, because they'd become so close, he decided that enough was enough, so he devised a plan to help her escape. He instructed her that every morning, an undertaker would come in to bring in coffins to dispose of people who had died at the infirmary. He knew that if she managed to get herself into a coffin and close the lid, the undertaker would then pick her up and bury the coffin at the local cemetery. Stephen would then come back later to dig her up so she could escape. By this point, Vanessa was now desperate to escape, so she agreed to the plan. The next morning, Vanessa quietly slipped out from the infirmary at 7 AM and climbed into one of the coffins and waited for the undertaker to pick her up. It was still dark and she could barely see what she was doing, but she eventually found a coffin, got inside and shut the lid. It felt as though she'd been waiting an age, but as she was almost giving up hope, she felt movement around her as she was being taken from the infirmary. It was only a short drive to the local cemetery, and soon enough, she felt the coffin being lowered into the ground and dirt being piled on top of it. It was a strange feeling because, although she was slightly claustrophobic, she felt as though it wouldn't be long before she'd be able to escape for good. The final few mounds of dirt were placed on top of the coffin, and all Vanessa had to do was wait for a little longer for Stephen to come back and dig up the coffin. But a few hours passed and nothing happened. Vanessa now began to panic and started to squirm in the coffin. As she did, she felt something uncomfortable on her back. She'd just enough room to take out the lighter in her pocket to see what was causing her discomfort. As she did, she discovered she was actually lying on top of someone. She began to panic and scream as loud as her lungs would let her.
Help! 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 Someone help! Help! Help!
But after a moment, she composed herself, trying to calm herself down, knowing that any second now she'd be saved by Stephen digging her up. But as she drew the flame towards her face, nothing could have prepared her for what she saw next. She gasped in horror as the face became illuminated by the soft glow of the flame. As she recognised who it was Stephen Fisher, who had died of a heart attack the previous night.
Help! 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 Someone help!
That was Casket Case, and if you enjoyed that, make sure you like, subscribe and share this video, because every week I'll be reading another original horror story that'll get under your skin. So stay tuned for the next creepy story, and remember, it's not just dreams that come true, so please, don't have nightmares.